Hey, good morning, welcome to the channel. It's been a while since I did a chipping video. I think since I bought the chipper and had it delivered. We took it out the next day. I think it did some chipping. I've learned a lot since then, and I thought I'd share it with you. It'd be a short little video on kind of what I've gathered, the do's and don'ts, and I'm still learning every day with a few branch whips and blood, sweat, and tears and whatnot. But one of the main things I've learned, particularly with this cedar and these branches that I have, is that they, like I had mentioned before, get really twisted up. And so I don't like to run the tractor while I'm getting the branches ready to go in. So a lot of times I'll do a stack before, kind of a couple, 2 to 3 little stacks of feedable limbs, and then feed those in, shut the tractor down, and get another group ready to go. Let's see what else. Every time I bring it back to the shop, I open it up and pick out all the stuck branches and bark and little pieces, and the blades still look pretty good, but they tend to get kind of a, I don't know, like a haze, or I don't know if it's pitch or whatnot on the surface of them. So a lot of times I'll just clean that off, and I use like a soft wire brush just to clean off the front of the blades. Ultimately I will have to sharpen them, and they are reversible, so I can switch them around too. But anyway, so yeah, every time I take it to the shop, I grease it up and also clean it out, and that way it's good to go for the next run. These buckets or boxes that I've been filling, I usually grab those with either the trash forks or the bolt-on forks to move them around. They're pretty heavy, particularly when they're wet, but I try to, once I fill them up, I try to move them up to an easier spot to get to once I get them full. And I've probably had a half a dozen people come out and buy boxes of chips, and I sell them for like 20 bucks a box, and I figure there's about 2.5 scoops in there. So it's a pretty good deal for them. It's a good deal for me because I have all the chips I can use, and put a little cash in our pocket for taking the bride out to lunch or whatnot. So I'm not going to get rich on it or anything like that, but it's definitely a cool deal. Helps other people out, and also helps me move a few of the chips out while I'm working. So that's what I've been up to. But I'm going to give you some different perspectives on this chipper and how it works. The other thing is most of the limbs I'll take the cross branches off, just cut them off unless they're small enough that I can feed them through, because the cross branches obviously will stop it from feeding down into the chipper. I've got hit a few times by some branches, and usually it's not the green one, it's the dead ones that are really brittle that end up vibrating or snapping against you. I got a pretty good bruise on my arm from one of them, so I've kind of learned to be careful. And believe it or not, this isn't a Carhartt commercial, but it does help to have some thick clothing on when you're doing this. And also today I'm wearing my rubber rain gear, not because it's raining, it's actually dry right now, but all the moss and wetness and mud and whatnot that's on the branches, it's nice if you don't get those on your clothes, at least not every time. So anyway, hope you enjoy it. If you have questions about the chipper, I'll be happy to answer them. I did go on Titan's website, take a look recently, because they've been advertising sales. It looks like it's went up a little bit in price since I bought it, which kind of makes me feel good, but at the same time I was a little bit surprised. Hey guys, so this is about 20-30 minutes worth of work, and this thing's probably 2/3 full. Goes pretty quick. I mean, obviously I'm not cleaning it out, it's not clean chips, but it's great for mulch. Still works good and dry to dry down areas and whatnot. I have noticed that the bigger the branches, the bigger, or I should say not bigger chips, but the density of the chips. It's obviously more wood and less other stuff. But you know, I've just been grabbing whatever's here and chipping it up. So a couple other things I thought of that I hadn't mentioned is I think I've broken 2 or 3 shear pins, and that was probably the hardest part of buying this, is trying to find shear pins, or trying to find anybody that wanted to give you good advice on shear pins. I ended up finding shear pins from a bolt and fastener supplier in Longview, and I walked in with the shear pin that came on the chipper, and they knew exactly what to give me, and they ended up giving me 12 bolts and nuts for, gosh, I want to say it was under $5, whereas if you go on Amazon or different places, they charge a lot more. So that took me about 3 weeks to sort that out, figure that out. But I have been through, I think, 2 or 3 shear pins, and I'll include a picture of that just to show what it looks like and whatnot. And most of the time it wasn't a surprise to me. It was kind of like, should I feed this log in or not? And they weren't real big or anything, but sometimes they have knots, or the way they feed in makes them a lot bigger, whatnot. So none of them were a surprise to me, and so I've kind of learned what to do and what not to do. The other thing that I learned was probably should be obvious is the chute here even though it's not blowing chips at the moment, and you want to go grab some more branches to feed in, don't walk in front of the chute, because a branch or limb can be hung up in there and it'll vibrate loose and go ahead and into the blades, and you'll have chips in your face. That only happens once or twice, and then you figure that out. So I think at the end of the video, I'll show you the process I use of just taking it apart, cleaning it out, taking a look at everything and making sure it's clean. All right, so if you're chipping like we've been chipping and you got nothing coming out of the chute, that's a bad sign. You can see my pile down here. I do have some greenery in there, and I was feeding in and nothing's coming out. And so look inside here, and we're plugged up. So I'll show you what that looks like and how to clear it. So I think you can see that. That's our exit chute, and it's packed full. I clean all this out. Anyway, that's how you clear a clog. Alright, so just a short little spiel on my cleanup and whatnot for this chipper once I'm done. First thing I do is get it back to the shop and level it out so that it's basically the PTO is horizontal. And then I go ahead and disconnect it, because you're going to want to be able to turn the wheel. And you can't do that if it's attached to the tractor. At least on my tractor you can't. Maybe some others you can. And then I just go through and clean off the blades with a soft wire brush and pull all the sticks and whatnot out of it. And they get wrapped around the axle, especially the seater. So I clean all those out and lube it up in like 4 different places. And then you're good to go. All right, so we'll give you a little close up. So this seater here was wrapped around the axle down in here, which, you know, I doubt it makes much of an impact, but, you know, I did take it out. And that's part of the reason why you want to be able to turn this thing, because there is a stop right here, and if anything's in there, you aren't able to turn it. The other thing is you want to be able to clean these blades off. And I'll show you from the other side. And, you know, they don't look like they're super dull or anything, at least not to me. They're not beat up or anything, but they do have kind of a residue on them, so that's what I clean off with the wire brush. And that's about it. And then I'll go ahead and lube it up. There's a grease fitting here and one on the other side right in there, and then 3 of them on the PTO. So that's about it.